Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Me. In my series Freemasonry and Satanism. Lordy, I've been talking about some crazy things lately. In my New World Order media and press release series and book reviews. Focusing on what's going on in the world right now. New World Order, globalism, apparently the apparent attack on Christianity, desire for the Jewish people, Israel, and Christian Zionists to rebuild King Solomon's temple, New Age, philosophy, teachings. Quite bizarre. Apparently even Vice President Pence was giving a speech at a local college, commencement speech, the end of the year ceremony, and apparently a lot of students got together and walked out. They didn't think it was appropriate. Apparently they said he's leading the parade against homosexual. He's homophobic, trying to destroy these people. So by no means is there an end to this propaganda and this social conditioning, and this deception, and this attack on Christianity, and this desire to bring about a global world order, a new world order. They call it a new age, but pretty much it's a return to the old age. Sacrificing animals, maybe even humans. How horrific will it get? Apparently, a few years ago, I got wind that apparently the U.S. government purchased 30,000 guillotines. What would they use those for? How horrific is it to even think about it? And then apparently our U.S. presidents have been signing into law something called Noahide laws, some kind of religious law brought to us by the Jewish elite, who are bent on destroying Christianity. And those are just facts. You can go watch any of the videos with the rabbis talking. Just put in there, rebuilding King Solomon's temple. Rabbi says to rebuild King Solomon's temple. Rabbi talks about Noahide laws. Any of that stuff. And you'll hear them say it themselves. But anybody who talks about this or Jewish people and this coming Jewish utopia, there's even a book by Professor Higgins, Rabbi Higgins, and I made a couple videos on that. And then, of course, the Protocols of Zion, and Marvin Antleman's 2 books, Volume 1, Volume 2, To Eliminate the Opaque, and so many books. I'm closing in on 700 videos on YouTube and 15 years worth of research, trying to figure out one thing. WTH. What the heck is going on? And apparently, I might have figured it out. If you're watching my videos, you might have figured it out. Seems like it's a lot of repetition now when I go back to these books. So this is going to be a return to a book I did last year, or I think it was last year. Series 204, ISIS Unveiled, Volume 1 of 2, 700 pages, big thick book. Apparently I have both volumes, and I've made a video on the other one. Then I have the Theophist Society, Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine. I have Volume 1, 2, and 3. And we'll be looking at those books again. Anthropogenics, the history of mankind, cosmoprogenics, the history of the cosmos. So she did a lot of research trying to re-educate the world into the New Age philosophy teachings, which seems to me to be not so New Age and a fulfillment of prophecy. They created a magazine called Lucifer Magazine and a publishing company called Lucifer Publishing Company. So to me, that speaks volumes. Go look up Lucifer on Yahoo image site, or even on the internet, or go watch the TV program Lucifer, and get your own perception of who you think Lucifer is. So anyways, I was watching a video, and it mentioned something about this book, ISIS Unveiled, Volume 1 of 2. I made the first part on June 24th, 2018. So almost a year ago. And like I said, I've got so many books with part 1s. I want to get to part 2 on almost all my books, at least part 2. Some of them are part 12 and 7 and 8. And who knows how many I can make on morals and dogma, and the different books in the Encyclopedia Judaica, the Jewish encyclopedia published in English. Probably this kind of information for the first time in English, 1973. I have those books. And I'm working on the collection for the Encyclopedia Judaica, the republished edition 2006. And if I find them for $2 or $3 on abebooks.com, I will purchase them. So it's a slow process to complete the 2006 set. And I also look for more books with Helena Blavatsky, Theophilus Society, Annie Besant, Alice Bailey, etc., etc., etc. Whatever resources I can find. So with that said, let me start reading from the book. On page 336. And I'm just going to jump in here and slowly explain so I can get this thing going correctly, so you can get on the same page as I'm on, same wavelength, and we can talk about the same thing. So I keep talking about this thing called the Kabbalah, magic, witchcraft, sacrificing animals, maybe people, spiritual beings beyond the veil. What is this? Rosicrucians, Freemasons, secret societies, Church of Satan, fastest growing church in the world, and all this destruction, World War I, World War II, to bring down the Ottoman Empire in Turkey. The Sultan wouldn't allow the Jewish people to have the Palestinians' land during the 1900s. And then to accelerate the program, of course, we've had 9/11. Look at all those countries and peoples that have been destroyed, dismembered, dislocated. It's been horrible. So, trying to find out WTH. So I was reading this book. You can see I highlight like I normally do. And I was watching a video that mentioned a particular page, and so I went and looked it up, and I found some material that wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but it certainly is something I wanted to talk about. So you have Professor Denton speaking here. Professor Denton, D-E-N-T-O-N, when speaking about the future of psychometry, astronomy will not disdain the assistance of this power. Psychometry. So apparently, if you want to know what psychometry is, if I go find an old mug like this, and I'm a educated psychic, and I open my mind and meditate and hold the ancient artifact, the mug, I will get visions in my brain about the person who owned this mug and the life that this mug, whatever the artifact is, I will be able to see the history of the mug. Psychic abilities to pick up an object, close your eyes, and you've seen this on some TV programs and things like that, and be able to see the past. Apparently, it is a real and credible ability. Again, what do we know about our reality? Considering things like remote viewing, where people leave their body and go into the past and the future, or all over the country, or even Mars, and report back to the governments of today what they see, and there's plenty of books on that, and I've been reading those books, made videos on those books. I'm reading some books on that subject right now, Ingo Swann and others, and I will be making future videos on those books. So, psychometry, psychometrony, however you say it. You can read the past of an object. So they're saying, with the telescopes and the ability to see further in space, that these psychometry people, psychics who can look at pictures or whatever, and will be able to tell the history of those distant stars and those peoples. Now, how crazy is that? So Professor Denton, when speaking on the future of psychometry, astronomy will not disdain the existence of this power. As new forms of organic being are revealed, when we go back to the earlier geological periods, so new groupings of the stars, new constellations will be displayed. When the heavens of those early periods are examined by the piercing gaze of Fucher's psychonometers, so I guess if they figure in the future, with the advancement of raising our consciousness, there will be more people trained in how to look into the future, remote viewing, astral travel, this New Age stuff. So when this stuff moves forward in the future, and they discover new constellations, etc., an accurate map of the starry heavens during the Solarian period may reveal to us many secrets that we have been unable to discover. So I went on Yahoo image site and looked up the Silurian period, and apparently it's an ancient period, dinosaurs or more prehistoric human beings, etc., etc. Why may we not indeed be able to read the history of the various heavenly bodies, their geological, their natural, and perchance their human history, with these psychics? I have good reason to believe that trained psychometers will be able to travel from planet to planet and read their present condition minutely and their past history. Oh wow. Moving on in this book, Herodotus tells us that in the 8th of the towers of Belos in Babylon, used by the sacerdotal astrologers, there was an uppermost room, a sanctuary, where the prophesizing priestesses slept to receive communication from the god. So apparently, historically, those ancient towers in Babylon, over there where Baghdad and Iraq is now, in the ancient towers there were these private little rooms where the prophesizing priestesses would sleep to receive communication from the god. So they had these rooms in these stone towers, and a priestess would be able to get information from the god. Besides the couch stood a table of gold, upon which were laid various stones, which Manetho informs us were aerolites. So that would be asteroids that have crashed to Earth. Asteroid rocks, aerolites. The priestesses developed the prophetic vision in themselves by pressing one of these sacred stones against their heads and their bosoms. The same took place at Thebes and Petrea and Lycia. So in these ancient cities and areas around the world, apparently people were having these abilities to use psychometry, prophecy, and pick up these asteroids, stones, or whatever, and see the history of it, or into the future, or into the past, some kind of prophesized vision. Do you believe that that's possible? What about all those books I've been going over with Tim Rifat, David Morehouse, Jim Mars on remote viewing? Is that all faked information? And then, of course, tons and tons of material about out-of-body experiences and demons and angels and ghosts, even in the Bible, all that information. Is it all lies? Or is there something to this? And should we wake up and try to understand what it's all about? What does it have to do with trying to destroy Christianity and apparently other religions around the world? Certainly the Islamist people have been attacked quite severely lately and destroyed. And I might mention that, during World War I and World War II, the Christians were attacked and destroyed. Russia was predominantly Orthodox Christian. The Germans were Christians. The British were Christians. The Americans were Christians. France, Italy, all over the world. They killed millions of people. Just saying. So World War I and World War II, they were killing millions of Christians. And 9/11, they're killing millions of Islamists. And apparently even with Mao and the communist revolution into China, they killed millions of Buddhists and Hindu people. So whoever these evil forces are, they kill all peoples of all different religions. So we might want to pay attention to what we're dealing with. You think? So this would seem to indicate that psychometry was known and extensively practiced by the ancients. So if you believe in the New Age and you're a big fan of the Theosophist Society and, you're using your chakra system and yoga and meditation and all this New Age occult symbolism, graffiti and everything else, just try to remember the words that I'm going to be reading from this book. Use your discernment and your judgment. And just think, do you really want to return to the ancient practice of sacrificing animals and probably humans? The government did purchase 30,000 guillotines. They have passed something called the Noahide laws in secret, and worshiping any other deity than the approved deity would be an accusation, a crime of heresy, heretic, punishable by beheading. How much into the Dark Ages will they return to? How evil could this possibly be? Certainly makes you think you live on a Twilight Zone planet if you start to believe this information. But apparently with all the satanic symbolism around us, it appears to be true. They even had a practice of consecrating some altar in Israel that's going to be used in the rebuilt King Solomon's temple. And apparently they sacrificed a lamb. They had the ritual. You can go watch the videos. So it is real, what I'm saying. That should concern people if you read the Bible and you understand what's prophesied to happen. Okay, we have somewhere seen it stated that the profound knowledge possessed, according to Draper, by the ancient Chaldean astrologers of the planets and their relations was obtained more by divination of the Bethlos, or the meteorite stone, than by astronomical instruments. Wow! So the astrologers were getting their information using psychic abilities and holding in their hand meteorite stone. Strabo, Penny, Uranus all speak of the electrical or electromagnetic power of the betyl, B-E-T-Y-L-I, some kind of stone. They were worshipped in the remotest antiquity in Egypt, and the Shamoth race as magnetic stones containing souls which had fallen from heaven. And the priest of Cybele wore the small betylos stones on their bodies. How curious the coincidence between the practice of the priests of Belos and the experiments of Professor Denton. Wow. As Professor Buchanan truthfully remarks in Psychometry, it will enable us to detect vice and crime. No criminal act can escape the detention of psychometry when its powers are fully brought forth. You could make a sci-fi movie from this information. They did make some sci-fi movies with people being able to see the future and arrest people before they committed the crime. So where do you think they got the information? The sure detection of guilt by psychometry, no matter how secret the act, will nullify all concealment. Well, one thing they're doing now is with the installation of artificial intelligence and beast computers, I'm confident that they can listen to what I'm saying on this laptop computer right here, and my iPhone and my smart TV and everything else, smart car, facial recognition when you walk down the street, traffic lights, cameras, everything else. They are fine-tuning a system to be able to monitor everything we do 24/7. Speaking of elementary, Raphael says, these invisible beings have been receiving from men's honors as gods. So they have something called demons or angels or elementary beings, and apparently they have communicated with mankind throughout the ages, and apparently these invisible beings have been receiving from men honors as gods. A universal belief makes them capable of becoming very malevolent. It proves that their wrath is kindled against those who neglect to offer them legitimate worship. Oh my, so you got some invisible beings here, and they are received by human beings as gods, and apparently they can get quite evil and malevolent and attack human beings if the human beings neglect to offer them a legitimate worship. So if I go the paragraph before that to try to see how we jumped into that, as Professor Buchanan truthfully remarks on psychometry, it will enable us to detect vice and crime. No criminal act can escape the detection of psychometry when its powers are properly brought forth. The sure detection of guilt by psychometry, no matter how secret the act, will nullify all concealment. So are these invisible beings that apparently are all around us everywhere? Are they monitoring, documenting every single thing we do? And he says, speaking of elementary, Raphael says, these invisible beings have been receiving from men honors as gods. So some kind of beings have communicated to humans throughout the ages, down there in the Yucatan, Central America, South America, North America, Australia, Africa, Europe, everywhere. And they see these beings, communicate with these beings, and they honor them as gods. But if you honor them as gods and you don't continue to worship them, they can be very malevolent. Oh boy. Homer describes them in the following terms. Our gods appear to us when we offer them sacrifice. Homer describes, Homer is one of the ancient philosophers, writers, describes them in the following terms. Our gods appear to us when we offer them sacrifice. Sitting themselves at our tables, they partake of our festive meals. Whenever they meet on his travels a solitary Phoenician, they serve him as guides and otherwise manifest their presence. So these beings can manifest their presence to human beings. We can say that our piety approaches us to them as much as crime and bloodshed united the Cyclopses and the ferocious race of giants. So apparently, if you're a pious type of person, somebody who is very humble in prayer, yoga, meditation, just super humble, bow down in prayer, maybe invocations, hocus pocus, abracadabra, just using those words as an example, evocation, mantras. Apparently these beings will appear. And apparently, if they do appear throughout the history of mankind, mankind has treated them as gods. And if they were manifested and brought into existence and acknowledged, and people didn't continue to worship them, they could get quite irate and attack humankind. Well, that's nice to know from the Theophist Society. Isis Unveiled, Volume 1 of 2. The latter proving that these gods were kind and beneficent demons, and that whenever they were dismembered, whether they were dismembered spirits or elementary beings, they were no devils. Well, I beg to differ that they are devils. I did go on the computer on Yahoo image site, and I looked up elemental beings, and I looked up demons, and just for the sake of being fair, it's not mentioned right here, but I looked up angels. So I made 3 videos, just 5 or 10 minutes videos. So I'll play them right now, because the book is mentioning these elementals and demons, and then comparing their activities when they manifest themselves to people. And apparently these gods appear to us when we offer them sacrifice. And that's right here in this book. I don't make anything up. 700 pages, Theophist Society, New Age. Is there something that we should be aware of in our reality? So take a look at these short clips and let me know what you think. Hello and welcome to another Rick Miracle Yahoo image word search. I'm reading the book Isis Unveiled, Volume 1 of 2 by Helena Blavatsky. 700 pages. Theophist Society. The foundation for the, apparently the New World Order. The people who brought us Lucifer magazine, Lucifer Publishing Company, now called Lucas, and apparently quite active, with an office at the United Nations or across the street. So what is this New Age, Theophist Society, Helena Blavatsky, and all this information? So I'm reading her book here, page 338, and there's a sentence here. So, bad demons, only under the guise of good ones. For the elementaries often clothe themselves with the similitude of the good and assume a rank of very much superiority. Their boasting betrays them. Got to get these words straight. So what do you believe? Do you believe in God or angels or demons? And what about elementaries? Do we have beneficial divinities? Do we have malevolent, evil divinities? So they are called bad demons, only under the guise of good ones. For the elementaries often clothe themselves with the similitude of the good, and assume a rank very much superior to that they really occupy. Their boasting betrays them. So there's a few more sentences away. There's a sentence here. You doubt sorcery and magic? O truth, thy possession is a heavy burden. So making a video on Isis Unveiled, little few pages. And they're talking about elementary beings, as you can see on this page. So what is an elementary being? Is this some kind of being? Is this a being? An elementary being? A being? A being? Seriously. Here's 1,000 images about elemental. What kind of beings might be out there? Fairies and other elemental beings. You can go to a Yahoo image site and put in elementary beings, elemental beings. See pictures like this in modern day New Age materials. 12 races of Earth. The modern mystery school. Look at all these creatures in the ether, in the atmosphere, while this lady is sleeping. Supernatural magazine, elemental beings. Wind beings, earth beings, fire beings, water beings, the 4 elements. Are there some spiritual entities in the air, the ether? What is this new age? Looks like an elemental being here is taking the shape of the water. Remember that movie Avatar? So here I am reading ISIS Unveiled and a lot of other information about things going on today. Israel and the Jewish people wanting to rebuild King Solomon's temple, apparently so they can sacrifice animals to gain some kind of favor or repentance or forgiveness from some kind of deity. What are we talking about? Seriously. What are we talking about? World, ether, elemental beings, kingdom of nature. And I'm not trying to teach the Kabbalah or witchcraft or any of this. I'm personally desirous to wake up my mind to what's going on in reality and all the social conditioning and propaganda and transgenderism, promotion of homosexuality, androgynous people, both male, both female, bisexual, pansexual. Does it have anything to do with this? I believe it does. And they say a picture speaks 1,000 words. Natural spirits and elemental beings. So I like to do these little Yahoo image search. And of course we have Halloween. People dress up as ghouls and witches. And you have circles and labyrinths and other types of magic. Would that be sorcery and witchcraft? Fairies and gnomes? Seriously, what are we to believe? I'm not opposed to raising our consciousness, but at least if we're going to do it, let's discuss it fairly. And it seems to me, as a Christian, Jesus rising from the dead is not so mysterious when you look at all this other information. Jesus casting out unclean spirits is not so mysterious when you look at these elemental beings and other types of beings. So why would they want to be the powers that be these days? Destroy Christianity, destroy a lot of Christians and other people's desires to have family values and ethics and morals as described in the Bible. Why are there forces who want to promote the philosophy of do as thou wilt? You can do anything. There are no morals or ethics or rules. You can do whatever you want. What's that old saying? Be careful what you ask for. You might get it. If they get a world with chaos and anarchy and all kinds of beings, just saying. You can see the artwork and the graffiti and the posters. Go to your downtown area. Record albums. New Age. And you will be introduced to all kinds of things that are like in these pictures. Movies, TV programming, witches, sci-fi, aliens, UFOs. Elemental beings. They're saying this stuff in the sky might be kinds of beings. Sylphs, however you pronounce that word, Sylphs. Elemental beings helping to clear the chemtrails. World Dragon Day, elemental being. So I guess the beginning of any kind of education is at least awareness. And I believe we human beings are spiritual beings, and for whatever reason, the gift from God, we arrive in these biological bodies during the birthing process of a human being with the DNA from a male and a female. And when we die, we return to the ether, the spiritual realm, wherever that may lead us. But there are forces of evil at work trying to destroy good, trying to bring about a global world order, prophecies of Armageddon, threats of a nuclear holocaust, global warming, climate change, sustainability, terrorism, economic collapse. And then you have people into summering magic. And there's your five-pointed star, some crystals, the elemental beings. Dragon. Looks like some kind of pyramid, circle, magic, dragon. The dragon's a common theme. Electricity. Chakra system. Here's an interesting chart. The spirits of plants. The spirits of dream world. The spirits of enlightened beings. The spirits of stars. The spirits of the great cosmic forces. The spirits of animals, the spirit of the great cosmic laws, the spirits of planets. So why can't people believe that we human beings have spirits? And there's lots of evidence. People who die and come back to life tell the story. Out-of-body experiences, people seeing ghosts. The Golden Phoenix Workshop. Elemental beings. So the more I research, the more I'm convinced that what Jesus taught was probably appropriate for mankind at the time. That makes you wonder why today they want to destroy and discredit Christianity. What does prophecy say? Do people bother to go and look into it? Who's in charge of the world? Who's threatening the economic collapse? Terrorism. World War I, World War II, 9/11. I don't think it's you or I. There are some forces behind it, involved in secret societies and cults. And maybe they're working with some kind of sinister evil beings from behind the veil. Another dimension. The underworld. Anyways, thank you for looking at this video. Rick Miracle reporting. Hello and welcome to another Yahoo image word search. And I'm reading the book ISIS Unveiled, Volume 1 of 2. Helena Blavatsky, Theosophist Society. Page 338. And they talk about bad demons. So I thought I'd look it up. I looked up demons, and you can see the pictures here. I don't know if there's a good demon. Well, it seems like they like naked women with huge breasts, and the skulls, fire, serpent-like creatures, statues all over the world, horns, wings, reminds me of fallen angels. Oh my! What are demons, and are they real? Well, looks like he likes one of those little rings in his tongue. That's quite popular today. And a ring on his nose. That's quite popular today. You suppose it has any connection to people actually doing that? I would suspect it does. The mythical demons of hell. Who's who in Satan? You can go look this stuff up. Crazy pictures. Looks like a gray alien. Looks like they like to step on and eat humans. Fallen angel. You know, what is the truth about our reality? Historical demons in the Bible in this picture. So anyways, Theosophist Society, New Age teachings, demons, and other types of beings. And people running around our streets looking like this these days. Oh my. Thanks for watching the video. Rick Miracle reporting. Welcome to another Yahoo image word search. Just made a video on demons, but to be a little fair, because it was so grotesque, I thought I would look into angels and brighten up my mood after looking at those demons. Common denominator with a lot of them, they have the wings. They look a lot nicer than the demons. So you can go on Yahoo image site and look at the web pages, links to each picture, and kind of give yourself an education and see what you think. Oh, my problem with the Weeping Angel episodes. So they make TV programs with some of this stuff, and it looks like it can get quite gruesome, even with angels. Seems like the super hot and attractive women theme is a big thing. Arguing with angels, Enochian magic and modern occulture. So there's angels mentioned in the Bible. So you got your evil demon getting it on with a angel. Guess they have wallpaper like this. What are we to believe? Artwork like this, you see it quite often. Looks pretty gruesome. The angels are coming down and attacking the demons and the fallen angels. The Tower of Babel on the bottom of this picture. So what do people know about the spirit world? Christ ascending with angels. So what are we to believe? Is ignorance really bliss? I don't think so. Do angels really look like that? I don't think so. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting. So what do you believe? Fair question. Do we want this new religion where they're sacrificing animals over there at King Solomon's temple? Do we really want people who are Christians and profess to believe that Jesus Christ was sent from God's world, was the Savior, to teach mankind to love one another, and they want to ban that? And people who continue to believe that Jesus was the Messiah will be accused of heresy, punishable by beheading. How insane can it get? Back to the book, page 337. The language of poor Prophy, and I apologize for the pronunciations on some words, Porphyry. So some of these historic philosophers, who was himself a disciple of Plotinus, is still more explicit as to the nature of these spirits. Demons, he says, are invisible, but they know how to clothe themselves with forms and configurations subjected to numerous variations, which can be explained by their nature having much of the corporal in itself. So they can appear as different kinds of beings, and I noticed on some of the results demons, they could appear like gray aliens. And even Series 23, the Book of the Law by Aleister Crowley, where he was communicating with Alois and Lamb, they look like gray aliens, preaching different commandments than God's commandments. Do as thou wilt. You can do anything you want. So the opposite of the Ten Commandments, which would be like Christ or Antichrist. So which would be the difference between God or the devil, Satan or Lucifer. Their abode is in the neighborhood of earth. So apparently they're here on earth all around us. And when they can escape the vigilance of the good demons, there is no mischief that they not dare commit. So apparently they're all here, and apparently under some kind of control by good demons, I guess angels or spiritual beings. But apparently they can escape, or they can be summoned. And then it says here, there is no mischief that they will not dare commit. One day they will employ brute force, another cunning. Further, he says, it is child's play for them to arouse in us vile passions and to impart to societies. If this is true, people need to pay attention, you think? Impart to societies and nations turbulent doctrines, provoking wars, sedition, and other public calamities, and then tell you that all of these is the work of the gods. These spirits pass their time in cheating and deceiving mortals, creating around them illusions, prodigies. Their greatest ambition is to pass as gods and souls, disembodied spirits. So I have a question in my mind. Is this what Kabbalah is all about? Alchemy, sorcery, witchcraft? And if these invisible beings can do so much, are some forces using them for their own advantage, whether it's wealth or perversion or psychopaths killing people? Just how insane. Even Aleister Crowley, the Book of the Law, Do As Thou Wilt. The Jewish Utopia book, Professor Higger, To Eliminate the Opate, People Who Believe in God, by Rabbi Marvin Antelman, the leader of the Jewish Congress of America. And YouTube I republished Series 27, Part 1, and YouTube put a warning sign on it, restrictions on my videos. So when I do talk about these things, the videos either get deleted or get restricted. So somebody doesn't want people to know about this stuff. Iamblichus, what a name. Lamblichus, Lamblichus, the great thoraologist of the Neoplatonic school, a man skilled in sacred magic, teaches that good demons appear to us in reality, while bad ones can manifest themselves, but under the shadowy forms of phantoms, like ghosts. Further, he collaborates prophany and tells that the good one fears not the light, while the wicked ones require darkness. The sensations they excite in us make us believe in the presence and reality of things that show, though these things be absent. So they can make us believe something when it's not really true. And in the last couple years, I mentioned numerous times, because it was in the news, press releases, or videos, but there has been an uptick in possession in China, in Ireland, in Italy, in Brazil, in America. You can go look it up. Demonic possession on the increase. Look up those keywords and read some of the stories. Italy requesting more exorcists. Ireland requesting more exorcists. So the spiritual world exists, and apparently the more people get into this stuff, playing with Ouija boards or getting into Satanism, including the symbols which appears to attract these beings, and they can be in the form of tattoos or home decorations or building designs, pyramids, six-pointed stars, and so much more. If you wonder why they have all the owls and rising sun pictures and practices of sun worship and the occult, now you know. Meditation, piety, yoga, quieting your mind, letting these beings in. Who are you letting in? Even the most practiced theologists found danger. So even the most practiced theologists into this cult information found danger. And I've been saying that quite a bit. Sometimes in their dealings with certain elementaries, we have Lambertius stating that the gods, the angels, and the demons, as well as the souls, may be summoned through evocation and prayer. But when during theurgic operations, magic rituals, a mistake is made, beware. So during people practicing this kind of culture, cult, satanic rituals, whatever, if you make a mistake, beware. Do not imagine that you are communicating with a beneficent divinity who have answered your earnest prayer. No, for they are bad demons, only under the guise of good ones. So many people are into the channeled material, whether it's books or people today channeling some kind of entity. Abraham Hicks channeling Abraham. Esther Hicks channeling Abraham. I think Barbara Marciniak channeling the Palladians. And Jane Roberts channeling Seth. And so many more. A lot of them channeling Metatron, the fallen angel. Probably, but these beings, they lie. They say there are good beings. Even a lot of information about Ra. Even Corey Good and David Wilcock talk about Ra. So there's no shortage of this communication with this other world. And these beings try to disguise themselves as benevolent gods. And people are letting them in when they are not benevolent. And if you do not do what they say or worship them the way they want, they can turn on people right away. And apparently they do. It's quite a horrible situation. For the elementaries often clothe themselves with the similitude of the good, and they assume a rank very much superior to that they really occupy. Their boasting betrays them. And I have noticed that a lot of these channeled entities, Cryon, for example, who channels Cryon? I've made videos on him, but they brag a lot. Lee Carroll, Tom Carroll, Cryon. I have to go look at my book. You can look up Cryon, Kryon, channeling material. Some 20 years ago, since Baron de Potent, and I kept thinking of DuPont, disgusted with the indifference of the scientists who persisted in seeing in the greatest psychological phenomenon only the result of clever trickery, gave vent to his indignation on the following terms. So Baron de Potent, P-O-T-E-T, Potet, he was annoyed by the scientists who were saying all this psychic communication was just trickery. So he says, "Here am I on my way, I may truly say, to the land of marvels. I am preparing to shock every opinion and provoke laughter in our most illustrious scientists. For I am convinced that agents of an immense potency exist outside of us, and that they can enter in us, move our limbs and our organs, and use us as they please. It was, after all, the belief of our fathers and of the whole of antiquity. Every religion admitted to the reality of spiritual agents, recalling innumerable phenomena which I have produced in the sight of thousands of persons, seeing the beastly indifference of official science in the presence of a discovery which transports the mind into the regions of the unknown, an old man at the very moment when I ought to just be born." So I've learned a lot about that. People can meditate and They can go back to their past lives, or I've talked about Edgar Cayce and his ability to tell people about their past lives. So again, what are we to believe? And I think, this tedious thing I do with these book reviews is a slow process, but it does help us to open up our minds and get a good grasp of reality and our decision-making process and our common sense and our awareness of the dangers of making the wrong choices. Just saying. And apparently 2,000 years ago, when they were expecting a Savior, one arrived, Jesus. It was in prophecy. The Savior was coming. And all the details about what would happen when the Savior came also happened as prophesied. But they didn't want a Savior from the spirit world that taught that we are to love one another as humans. Some people wanted to conquer all of their enemies and rule the world, so they had to crucify Jesus Christ. So it seems. Back to the book. I am not sure if it would not have been better for me to have shared the common ignorance. So apparently Baron Dupotent is saying that he's discovered all this to be true, but maybe ignorance would be bliss, would be better. Knowing this is quite kind of a challenging bit of information. But I happen to think that waking up to the reality of it is a benefit to mankind. And if you just read the Bible, and Jesus casting out unclean spirits, and curing people of diseases, and changing water into wine, and raising Lazarus from the dead. So it's in the Bible. That part's not hidden. People just don't want to believe it or understand the depth of what it means. And apparently, maybe in ancient times, sinful people who preyed on other people, who did not love their neighbor, maybe they did separate themselves from God, so when they died, they were punished for it. So, and this was probably, knowing humanity, a devastating situation for human souls. I'm just theorizing. So the prophet was coming, or the Messiah, Jesus, and he preached, "He who believes in me shall be saved." So a way to bypass being a sinner and being disconnected from the God world, the heaven, whatever, winding up in the right place in the spiritual realm, because it does talk about good angels and good demons and bad demons. So apparently there are, and it does talk about in this material I just read, that some of the bad demons will escape control of the good demons or good angels, whatever. So apparently there is a hierarchy to this other world. And Jesus, I guess, recognized that because of the human propensity, unavoidable, unintentional, sometimes sinful behavior, selfishness, killing, robbing, whatever, you might wind up in the bad place. But apparently Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, treat others as you want to be treated, love one another, and believe in me. When you die, you'll be saved. And apparently they're trying to destroy Christianity, so these entities from the bad world don't want people to believe in Jesus and be saved and wind up in the good world. Probably they would be very angry and jealous. So it seems. And again, I'm theorizing. You can read the Bible and come up with your own conclusions. But I'm reading the Theophist Society here and this stuff, and I'm trying to make some kind of common sense out of it. Checking my time here. The sun is glaring. I can't see the clock on the screen. All right, back to this man saying, Baron Dupotent, that maybe it would be better if he had not learned this and shared common ignorance. And I happen to think that understanding this and accepting it and realizing we're spiritual beings, and I guess theoretically whatever happens to us on planet Earth, it doesn't matter. This is not the home base, so to speak, for our souls. That's in another dimension, the spiritual realm, which apparently is everywhere. I study this stuff slowly, try to rationalize it, understand it, not teach magic, and not get people to go study the Kabbalah and try to communicate with these beings. If you want to communicate with any beings, pray in the name of Jesus. Talk to God. The thing they don't want you to do, like the Rabbi Marvin Antelman writing the 2 books to beware, to eliminate the opate. That would be the comfort and the help you get from your prayer. FYI. So here he says, I have suffered the calamities to be written without refuting them. At one time it is simple ignorance which speaks, and I am silent. At another, still superficially, raising its voice makes a bluster, and I find myself hesitating whether or not to speak. Is this indifference or laziness? Has fear the power to paralyze my spirit? And I do believe that we can be deceived by thinking, dreaming, feelings, things that happened around us. We need to be on our toes. And that's why the Lord's Prayer says to lead me not into temptation and deliver me from evil. So we will be continuously tempted by these entities, and some of us will get caught up in evil, but say the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, and the rest of it, and the last part, lead me not into temptation and deliver me from evil. In Jesus' name I pray. Just like the exorcist, in Jesus' name they cast out the unclean spirits and demons, and apparently they have to leave. Just saying. And I also know from my research that we can have parasite entities attach themselves to us. So if you feel you do have them, you can pray and say, if there's any parasitic entities, if you feel like there's something not right or disturbing, and sometimes they cause illness and other crazy things, that you talk to God and say, please remove the parasites from me, these spiritual entities, evil ones. And if they do not leave, when you command them to leave, say, I demand you leave in Jesus' name. And if you don't leave, I ask Jesus or God to punish you severely. So apparently the belief in the prayer is the key. And knowing how to unlock the key is speaking in Jesus' name. And apparently the powers that be don't want you to know this, although they are requesting more exorcists over there in Italy and Ireland, and possession in Brazil and Ohio and America and all over the country. And you can look up this stuff and verify it for yourself. Simple keyword search on the internet and read some press releases. But I can't do everything for people. People need to kind of, if they really want to know what's going on in their reality. And what's the old saying? Ask and ye shall receive, seek and ye shall find. And to those of you that already know all this, I'm not talking down to you. But for those people who are not aware, I'm saying it so that they can pick up on it. Back to the Theophis book from Helena Blavatsky, Isis Unveiled, Volume 1 of 2, 700 pages. So has fear the power to paralyze my spirit? So if we put ourselves in a situation of fear, does that open up our bodies for these spirits to enter? Is that why they do that? Is that a fair question? No, none of these causes affect me. I know simply that it is necessary to prove what one asserts, and this restrains me. For in justifying my assertions, in showing the living fact, which proves my sincerity, the truth, I translate, outside the precincts of the temple, the sacred inscription, which no profane eye should ever read. And I've also gone over some books with some of this magic incantations, and I only showed the pages, and I told people I would never pronounce those words. And apparently in the Kabbalah, that a lot of Jewish people are into, there are these Hebrew characters, 3 or 4 of them they put together, and they can say them, and they have some kind of magical abilities. And apparently they want to rebuild King Solomon's temple to start sacrificing animals again. And as it said in this book, it attracts these entities. And even in Rabbi Marvin Antelman's book, I made a video on this and said it before, reading from the book, Rabbi Marvin Antelman, To Eliminate the Opate, Volume 1, Volume 2. He tells all, if you can get any 2 books, go get those 2 books. Because not all Jewish people are on the dark side. They have the Orthodox Jews who believe in God and the 10 Commandments, and not the reformed ones, like today we call the liberals and the progressives, who have gone apparently towards the dark side. 23 minutes. I try to end the video every 30 minutes and then start a new one. FYI. So it says here, you doubt sorcery and magic? O truth, thy possession is a heavy burden. So if you possess the truth, thy possession is a heavy burden. And I was thinking a while ago, reading all these books even about Shambhala, Shangri-La, all this stuff on metaphysics and all this research I've been doing. And apparently, according to the Shambhala material, another book I'm going over, I'm always reading about 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books at one time. I pick up one, read a few pages, pick up another. And it did say that if a person, and I can understand how this would work, let's say you just go sit on the front porch. And no noise, just find a quiet place and just look around you and pay attention to the gentle breeze on the plant leaves and a bug or the sky. Just be real quiet and look at all the reality around you like you haven't done before. Just really look at it. Maybe try to look at it so intently that it's not real, that it's a hologram. But just relax, look at it, relax, let it happen. And you start to notice everything is alive around you. And I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but I'm just saying all of nature, the bugs, the birds, and all this stuff, apparently a lot of us don't take enough time to look at this. And where I live now, you can see the trees behind me and everything. You know, I've had several birds nesting, and then their little fledglings, the hatchlings, come out, and a hawk will show up and all the birds will start screaming. And my garden is growing, and we've got squirrels and skunks and rabbits and everything else. So being out there in nature and relaxing and seeing all around you does appear to give you a greater sense of reality. And reading material like this and sitting down and thinking about it, picking up a book and reading a couple sentences or a paragraph, and just relaxing and thinking and using common sense and say to yourself, well, what would I want? What do I want? This chaos and anarchy world, the satanic type of world, the demons, or do I want a beautiful world, family values, where you don't have to worry about somebody abducting your child, playing in the yard, or selling drugs to your kids in high school? Apparently the forces today are trying to bring us the in my opinion, a very undesired world. So again, I just start thinking, and then I'm reading this, that a good portion of the people on the planet today are into this new age, progressive, and sorcery and magic, and they probably don't know exactly what they're into and the full implications. Back to the book. With a bigotry, which one might search for in vain outside the church, in whose interest, he writes, Des Mauserex quotes the above language as proof positive that this devoted servant, Savient, and all who share his belief have given themselves over to the dominant dominion of the evil one. So that's what it says here. Sorcery, magic, and apparently a lot of people who are into this are giving themselves over to the dominion of the evil one. I'll show you the page. And that would be right out of ISIS Unveiled. All right, moving on. Finishing up this chapter I was reading. Self-complacency is the most serious obstacle to the enlightenment of the modern spiritualist. His 30 years' experience with the phenomena seemed to him sufficient to have established intermundane intercourse upon the unassailable basis. His 30 years have not only brought to him the conviction that the dead communicate and thus prove the spirit's immortality, but also settled in his mind an idea that little or nothing can be learned from the other world except through mediums. And I have to say this again. Nikola Tesla, bringing the world wireless technology, and so much more, electricity and everything. Apparently, even assisting with those kinds of knowledges, the nuclear weapons and bombs and all the trillions of dollars our government's spending on aircraft carriers and jet planes and missiles and submarines. And it seems Nikola Tesla was on stage, and he said, when he was an older man, that I'm not the genius you think I am. I've been communicating with some entities. I hear things, I see things, I dream things. Anyways, apparently Mr. Morgan, one of the people like the Rockefellers or Rothschilds, his handler, they ran up there and got him off the stage. And it does occur to me that, the technological advances in the last 100 years has gone off on a tangent curve compared to the past 2,000 or 3,000 years. It's only a few hundred years ago we got the steam engine and iron and railroad cars, 1700s and 1800s. But then in the 1900s with the radio and TV and the Henry Ford and the automobile, they just went off on a tangent. And through my research into the scientists, I found out that most of them, if not all of them, were psychic to some degree. Their parents, let's say 70%, were into different kinds of religions and prayer, communication with other worldly beings, maybe these cults. And the other 20-30% got hit in the head and changed the blood flow. And we do have a pineal gland in our brain, which is a little pine cone looking thing about the size of half of your thumb, and it's full of water and crystals, is what you use to communicate in radios. So naturally speaking, we are built and designed to communicate with this other world. Now in the 1900s, the beginning of it, the Rothschild, not the Rothschilds, probably they were doing it in Europe, but in America it was the Rockefellers, were forcing fluoride into the water facilities all over the towns and cities all over the United States, which was calcifying the pineal gland, inhibiting our psychic ability to communicate with the other world. FYI. So whether you talk about Nikola Tesla getting his information from some kind of entities, bringing us these advanced technologies, which I would say are being used now to pretty much make it a prison planet, and a planet where you can push a button and probably have a person drop dead with the electromagnetic smartphones, iPads, smart meters, microwave transmissions, satellites, HARP transmitters, and there are certain frequencies that can induce people into a state of having a heart attack, or raising the blood pressure, or causing depression. So they can do it in a slow way, so people are really not seeing it as an obvious attack. Or they can do it so that somebody starts clutching their chest. And of course they're already microchipping children and people everywhere. A lot of people were unknowingly microchipped, and other accusations of being targeted individuals every day, monitored and played with microwaves. Even in Washington State, They were driving around with vans with microwave transmitter dishes on them and randomly attacking communities and seeing how the weapons were working. Washington State, right on, attacking citizens. Apparently, it was all brought to the government's attention in the United States during the early 1900s when the Russians were beaming a microwave beam at the United States Embassy and causing tumors, cancers, nosebleeds, ears bleeds by the people at the embassy. And the United States says that's crazy. They didn't believe it. And apparently they did believe it, and they accelerated their program into advanced technologies, microwaves, psychic research, and everything else. So we do have a runaway government into all of these technologies, including the psychic reality as well as the electromagnetic and plagues and viruses like AIDS. Leonard Horowitz wrote the book AIDS and Ebola and all that. I made videos on this. So the evil people running our planet are doing the sinister rituals and maybe communicating with satanic forces. We hear all the time that they're making deals with aliens, even Eisenhower and other presidents. So it would probably behoove all of us to at least wake up and see that all of this is possible. And from what we can see what is happening in our reality, it's also probable that it's going on, and that a bad day is coming at us, like I like to say, like a freight train, and there's nobody in the train to stop it, and it's just plowing towards us. I mean, this last week, with President Donald Trump sending an aircraft carrier and a fleet of ships to intimidate Iran, and a fleet of bomber planes to intimidate Iran, and then also raising the tariffs on goods, trillions of dollars of good trade with China, raising the tariff, a tax 25%. Now that's 25 cents on every dollar. So if it's $1 trillion, that's $250 billion an instant tax. And financially, that would have to devastate the people. And if they pass that tax on to the American people, all those things you can buy for $3 or $4 at Walmart or wherever the dollar store will have to go up. So it'll be an invisible, unseen tax on we citizens. No matter how they do it, they're going to bring in $250 billion or maybe $1 trillion, and that could really devastate the Chinese economy. And that's 1 billion people, and their president wouldn't have a hard time of getting those people to go to war with America. And then if they attack Iran, like they're doing Syria right now, Russia is supporting Iran, or backing them, and Syria. So it seems like somebody's trying to get World War III started, as prophesized. And they're into this occult, psychic abilities, research, and they know things that we don't know. They can look into the future, they can look into the past, and maybe they can change the past and change the future, especially when you consider the Mandela effect, that people say things are changing, or the Philadelphia experiment. And then you look at all those monuments all over the planet with ancient pyramids and megaliths that you can't build today. And then you think about, I know this is a lot, the why God or whatever would destroy the world, apparently because it was polluted with a lot of biological created monsters. So they had the Great Flood, and apparently God had Noah build the ark, according to Christian history. And the Hopi Indians talk about some beings helping them go underground. In Ecuador they have caves, and over Romania they have caves, that where all these people went to survive the Great Flood. So apparently there was an advanced civilization before this one, and apparently they were well educated into these things I'm talking about in this book. And apparently they want to destroy Christianity, and they don't want people to know about the spiritual world, about the power of prayer. I'm just saying. That's what I am. I'm just saying. We should open up our minds, raise our consciousness, and think, and try to find something that makes sense to us. It doesn't make sense to see all these people looking like freaks in our city parks and streets, and the graffiti on railroad cars and bridges and buildings, that people don't understand that these symbols attract these entities. They have a cause and an effect. And they want to reduce or eliminate the effect from the spiritual world that is benevolent and loving. They don't want that. They're jealous of people who are into that and wind up in heaven. That's what the fallen angels and demons are all about. There apparently are different dimensions and different realms in the invisible reality. And they don't want us to know that. And why would they want to rebuild King Solomon's temple to start sacrificing animals again? When you sacrifice an animal, you attract these beings. You control them. You get favors from the demon deities, gods, or whatever. Not making it up. I've made video after video after video. Maybe 1,000 hours of video material on my channel, closing in on 700 videos. 265 authors. Many of those authors had more than one book. So gotta be 300 books, and I have another 1,000 books I need to look at. Just wonder what will happen first. I finished my 1,000 books, or Armageddon, the end of the world. How much time do we have before something like those aircraft carrier and ships headed to Iran? They're probably there by now. And the bombers, they're certainly there. Or China reacts to a 25% tariff. Or the invasion begins into Venezuela. Or numerous other things they could do. Crashing the stock market tomorrow on Monday, Black Monday. Or whatever. I'm just saying, we need to be mentally prepared and understand that there are forces at work to bring this about. Make no mistake. Let me finish this book. For the spiritualist, the records of the past either do not exist, or if they are familiar with its gathered treasures, they regard them as having no bearing on their own experiences. So, spiritualists, people who understand the world of the spirits. And yet the problems which so vex them were solved thousands of years ago by the theologists, ancient religious scholars, who have left the keys to those who will search for them in the proper spirit and with knowledge. So like I continue to say, I do not want to teach magic, but I don't think there's anything wrong with understanding the spirit world and talking to God, and, like it says in this book, the proper spirit, the proper mindset. No matter what they do, do not hate people, do not want to have vengeance, don't wish that people would be killed and died, because you separate yourself from the good spirit world. No matter what happens, love the people. You can talk to God and say, please stop this, make it better, pray for the world. And apparently, a lot of people have meditated in cities, and they have reduced crimes. So if enough of we the people meditate and talk to the spirit world God to get this evil to go away and be punished and all that, there's nothing wrong with that. But hating only drags us down to the evil forces level. You tune your body when you hate to them. You attract them. You join them. According to my reasoning. Does it make sense? It is possible that nature has changed her work, and that we are encountering different spirits and different laws from those of old. Or can any spiritualist imagine that he knows more, or even as much about the mediumistic phenomenon and the nature of various spirits as a priest caste who has spent their lives in theological practice, which has been known and studied for countless centuries. If the narratives of Owen and Hare, Edmonds and Crooks, and I've got a whole lot of books on psychic research from about 1840 to 1940, and all these seances and communications with beings, kind of verifying all these conclusions I'm making, and Wallace are credible. Why not those of Herodotus and the father of history, Lambiosius or Proprione, and the hundreds of other ancient authors? If the spiritualists have their phenomenon under test conditions, so had the old theologists, people who studied this stuff, philosophers, whose records, moreover, showed that they could produce and vary them at will. The day when this fact shall be recognized, and the profitless speculations of modern investigators shall give place to patient study of the work of these thoroughlogist philosophers, people who studied these materials, will mark the dawn of new and important discoveries in the field of psychology. So what do you think? Seriously? Crazy? Does it make sense? Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.